Well, good morning and welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, Love Talk. I've got the New Haven Theater Company folks with me this morning. Hey, J. Kevin Smith. J. Kevin Smith is directing this new play, this new season, Dear Elizabeth by Sarah Rule. And Dear Elizabeth is a warm and deeply moving story of the relationship between two of our greatest American poets, Robert Lowell and Elizabeth Bishop, both poet laureates and Pulitzer Prize winners. And they shared over 400 letters over 30 years of a friendship that was mostly writing these letters to each other. Hey, Ralph, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. So, in this age of social media and texting and y'all going old school with old-fashioned letter writing
Right.
of friendship over 30 years, which is amazing.
It is, and it's really wonderful because they're just so prolific in their writing, and you get to enjoy and just sort of realize the beauty of words. And just like you said, with everything being the way it is today, you forget the artistry of actually sitting down and writing a letter. So,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. I'm delighted. So, all right, so what made y'all choose this particular play? What was it about this story, this play that said, you know what, this is timely. We need to do this.
Yeah.
What do you choose it?
Great. The way that we always choose our plays at New Haven Theater Company is someone has a passion about a project. They bring that proposal and passion to the group. We are a collective ensemble, so we make decisions that are artistic together as a group. We decide yes or no on the proposals that get put in front of us by members of the company. And that's how we end up choosing all of our works. I brought this play to the company. Um, Basically, it's been a kind of a circuitous route because last year this play was scheduled to be produced in the fall slot of last year's season, and one of our newer company members had brought it and decided to propose it to the company, and we had accepted that, and we were in the middle of the rehearsal process for it when we had an accident by one of the company members who, right before the show was to open, and we couldn't move forward with it because we couldn't replace that actor that late in the rehearsal process. So we canceled the show. And so I've been thinking about that show ever since. It's one that when I read it, I thought it was just a beautiful piece, this wonderful story about this deep friendship, and really, a very complicated relationship between these who were two of the greatest American poets of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. They, as you said, they were Pulitzer winners. They were poet laureates. They won tons and tons of other awards. In fact, Robert Lowell, who Ralph plays, used to regularly do poetry readings at Madison Square Garden in the city to
Wow.
full crowds. I mean, people would come out and listen to him read his poetry. I mean, you think about just the art of poetry being one of those things that is is not nearly what it used to be. But then again, you've got people like Amanda Gorman who have almost single-handedly revitalized poetry as an art form over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. But she's just such an amazing poet, such an amazing performer of her work. Well, Robert Lowell, was that during the 60s and 70s
Mhm.
in the U.S. But so I decided to bring the play forward again this year to try to produce it, and asked Ralph and Sandra to join the production, and mount it as a full production this year. And they agreed. The company agreed to have another run at it this year. So we're really excited to bring it to New Haven for this year.
So, Rob, how do you prepare to play someone who is so prolific, so revered, and to play it with authenticity and justice? How do you get ready for that? And are you a poet yourself?
Well, no pressure on me, right, for having to play this role. I am not a poet myself. And I think the important thing is to get the background, get the history of when he wrote things. How was he when he wrote things? Because he did spend time in and out of, mental health institutions as well. And so you can see in some of the writing, just trying to understand, he wrote this in maybe a manic state, one of the letters, and then he would switch to sort of a softer feel. And there really was a love for Elizabeth Bishop that, at one point was just sort of never spoken about. And then all of a sudden, he comes out and almost basically asks to marry, and so it really is going over the letters and not overdoing it, but just understanding when they were written and why they were written, and hopefully doing my best, to get the feel out there. My biggest fear is everyone, sitting there going, okay, he's reading letters. So to his credit, J. Kev, as the great director that he is, has put in some movement and different lighting and things. So, that helps to get the feel of the letter as well. Hopefully we're doing our job as actors, but every little bit helps.
Mm-hmm. So JK, is this a love story? Is it a love story? I mean, friendships are love stories as far as I'm concerned, but is there romance in here? Do we get a sense that if they were in the same space together, they could have become something?
It's one of those stories, Babz, where they certainly had that kind of a relationship, especially at the beginning, where it was, what is this relationship going to be, right? Is this going to be a friendship and a great, wonderful friendship? Is it going to be a romantic relationship? And it's further complicated by the fact that Elizabeth Bishop was a lesbian who, was with women for her entire life, and she never had a relationship with a man that I'm aware of. And so the conflict of the feelings that she was having for him, and obviously that he was having for her, or one of the things that really drives the narrative of the piece, figuring out what this relationship is going to be over time. And so ultimately, it is the story of a long, 3 decades long friendship, that also brings in their work and their mentorship of each other in their work, and the way they helped each other write their poetry. But over top of that is this other thing that is spoken about, but never comes to any kind of a resolution. So it is a story about love and friendship.
Are they ever in the same space? I mean, clearly they must have been in the same space with each other a few times in that 30-year friendship.
They were. They met initially in 1947. So a poet friend of theirs introduced them at a dinner, and they had moments of getting together physically in the same place over the course of the next 30 years. But most of it was this long distance letter-based relationship. It seemed that every time they got together in the same space, it always got weird. So you asked the question, if they were together, would it have helped? I don't know that it would have. I don't know, Ralph. What do you think?
I totally agree. Their relationship actually seemed to work better when they were away from each other.
I was thinking that. I was like, it works probably because they're not in the same space with each other.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So Ralph, when you're playing this guy, when you're playing Mr. Lowell, famous poet, this is a different kind of man. This is a different kind of man than what we don't see this kind of man anymore. Do you get that sense when you're playing this part?
Absolutely.
Like he is writing letters.
Absolutely, yes, very, very eloquently, and just the way. I've listened to some of his poems being read out loud because he did that, and just his cadence and, all of that, trying to bring it in with my own spin on it. Of course, I can't be him, but I can try to be him as much as possible. But yes, it's just a very different way that a gentleman, if you will, of the past would present themselves than today.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so tell me about JK, tell me about the woman that's playing um uh the 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 other poet laureate and the other famous poet.
Yeah, Elizabeth Bishop. She that's the name of the poet who is the other character in the play. Sandra Rodriguez was hoping to join us today. She's the New Haven Theater Company actor who is playing that role, but unfortunately, she is in hair and makeup right now on the set of The Diplomat. Um, she was scheduled to be going in for a shoot tomorrow, which is why we thought today would have worked really well for getting both Ralph and Sandra into this discussion. But then, as they will do in TV, they called her up at the last minute and said, "No, we need you Monday." So she's in Brooklyn right now at the studios shooting The Diplomat. We're hoping that she might even be able to call in from the set and be able to join us.
The Diplomat is a damn good show. So
yeah, it is a damn good show. It is a damn good show.
That's a damn good show. So
she's in her trailer right now, waiting to be called to the set. I'm assuming.
Listen, there are harder things in life, I must say. So high five to her.
Right.
All right, Ralph, then you speak to this. What was it like to work with her? And do you feel is there some chemistry? Like, do you build into chemistry? Do you create that with someone?
You absolutely do build that. She's very generous on stage, and we, try different scenarios. And again, we're not together as much, but getting the words and understanding what she's saying and then responding to her and writing back to her is very important. And it's work. It takes time. You have to really merge, your thoughts together, because you are responding, even though it's not written as a script. She's saying something and I need to respond in a letter, and vice versa. So it's that understanding the feeling of, what do I really want to say? Why am I writing this? And she's been really wonderful in her concept and the way that she is playing the role. So it does make it easy, because when you have someone who really falls into something easily and makes you feel relaxed on stage, then it's all the better.
So JK, directing this, the letters are its own character, and how do you get these letters to jump off the page into the audience, and how do people sort of take on being a part of this story? How do you direct that?
Well, first thing that you want to do is make sure that the actors are, and the play is being approached like most other plays are being approached, which is there are moments and beats in the play that have to be served. There are emotional arcs that happen during the course of the correspondence. And Sarah Rule has done an amazing job of putting together the letters in a way that create a series of emotional arcs between the characters. So finding those arcs, finding the things that are driving those emotional arcs for the characters, and helping the actors come to those and to understand what each one of the beats is about, not just as individual separate letters. It's the story of these two these two poets' lives, and being able to make sure that narrative gets told as a story. And that's one of the things that really attracted me to this play as well, is the storytelling nature of it. It's something that we as a theater company really value, is telling stories, and the play is built for that. So then the question is, how do you surround the actors with the opportunity to be really, really successful in that? So we're doing a few things different with this production. This will be the first show that New Haven Theater Company does in the round. And I should say it's kind of in the rectangle because it's not a round space. But we have audience on four sides. It's very intimate. And it's going to be one of those things that the audience can really, we're already an intimate theater space, but I think this is going to be an even more intimate production. The audience can, don't have to worry about it. They're not going to be involved in the play, but they would be involved in being very intimate with what's happening on stage. And so that creating that sense, and then also painting this world with light and sound in a way that I hope helps bring more life to the letters. And as Ralph said, honestly, I'm getting up and down and doing a bunch of stuff. And Sarah Rule in her script does a lot of that herself. She talks about she creates some crazy magical realism stuff that we're doing our best to recreate in our own way. Right. Yale Rep can bring water on the stage, but we can't actually do that. So it's we do our own version of that.
How old is this play? When did Sarah Rule write it?
2012. She
it's new. It's recent.
Absolutely, very recent.
Okay.
She actually wrote the play after being on bed rest when she was pregnant with twins. She tells the story in interviews and in her preface to the play for the actors and for the theater company that she was on bed rest. A friend of hers gave her a book of Elizabeth Bishop and Robert Lowell's correspondence called Words in Air, and she read it and became obsessed with it and said, "I've got to tell this story through theater," and that's where the play came from in 2012. And it was first produced, right up the road at Yale Rep. So it's got a rich history. It was also out at Berkeley Rep for a while, and has been done in theaters across the country since. And of course, Sarah Rule's an amazing playwright.
And so you've seen it. Have you seen it before?
I actually have never seen the play.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, have you seen it before, Ralph?
Never. Nope.
And so is this your first introduction to it too?
Yes, and you can't find anything that it's ever been recorded or anything like that. At least I haven't been able to. So yeah, so this is our interpretation.
I mean, do you like that, Cav? Do you like having the ability to sort of put your own, I mean, every play, when you direct it, you put your own spin on it, but you can sometimes go back and look at previous work or something or other. You don't have that here. So you have to figure out for yourself, I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna do that. Is that the process?
That is. I mean, I think the way that I typically work as an actor is that I don't want to see anybody else's interpretation of the character that I'm doing. Now, I really don't want to be influenced by the choices someone else makes, because in some ways it makes me feel like I'm just taking their stuff and mimicking them. And unfortunately, I tend to be a kind of a natural mimic anyway, so I don't like doing that. So if I can keep, that someone else's interpretation of the work out of my head, I know I'm not, just copying what they do. And that's the same way with directing. I've wanted to make sure that I understand what Sarah Rule's point of view on the play is. So obviously I've spent some time looking at what she's written, looking at what she said, to get a better understanding of what her point of view is. But yeah, like Ralph said, there's not much out there in terms of video of this piece. So that's a positive, actually.
So Ralph, in playing Mr. Lowell, do you go back and look at his poems? Do you go back and look at the era in which he lived? Do you go back and look at what the time frame, what the politics was like, what,
Absolutely. You have to do all of that to just get his thought process and where he's coming from. And one of the things he did is he started to write what was called like a confessional type poems, where they were very personal and very true about his family and his life. And there's a scene, as a matter of fact, where Elizabeth Bishop almost has an argument with him about, I don't think that's fair to the people that you're putting in these poems, because you're exposing, true life. And he said, but that's the purpose of it. And so that was one of their conflicts at one point. Is she said, yeah, you know, I think you're fantastic, but this particular piece is not something that I really like. So finding those moments too, where, you know, as any friendship, there are times where they disagreed, and how they handled that, because they didn't want to throw away what they've had, but yet as two poets, they could disagree on how things were written sometimes, and just carefully give each other, you know, some instruction as to how they might have done it differently and how to react to that. But yes, finding out those little nuances of where were they in their relationship when these letters were written, or this particular letter was written, and why it was written that way.
Mm, mm. So Jay, Kevin, when you take on a play with such historical movement to it, right? Over 30 years, right? They were friends, they were writing 400 letters, all this kind of stuff. Does that excite you, or does it give you pause like, okay, I have to showcase these people for 30 years? Or do you take a snapshot?
Well, you have to show the progression of their relationship, right? That's really the key, is making sure that you know, when you take on something that's got that kind of a, you know, 3-decade span, that you work through the moments in their relationship that are critical, that the playwright is giving you in the script, and that you do walk them through that. Now, Sarah Rule has, in some of her stage directions, things like they age somehow. So it's like, oh, well, thank you, Sarah. We appreciate that. Very, very
Abracadabra.
exactly. Well, there's a lot of abracadabra that she gives you in the script. And so it's all, to your point, about going in and putting your own spin on it, right? How is it that they're going to age? And you know, as a director, I'm also relying heavily on the voices of the people who are involved in the play. Not just my own vision. So, for example, I sat down with someone who's doing costumes for us, who's been working with us for the last couple of years on the costume side. And she said, "Oh yeah, well, we'll just do this, 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 and this, and this." And I was like, "I love that." You know, well, that absolutely helps us do that they age somehow thing without it being some crazy, somebody comes over with makeup and powder and changes their makeup on stage, right? Sprays their hair gray. You know, none of that stuff is necessary, because you can do that in a way that is much more suggestive of them aging. So yeah, it's a long span for Ralph and Sandra to go through in their journey together.
So Ralph, does this, I mean, are you on stage the whole time? Like, is this a heavy lift? Like, is this you and Sandra? I imagine two people and then letters. So how is that to be on stage?
Well, let me tell you, it is big lift, because it is just the two of us the whole time. There's no intermission. So and being in the round, you know, sort of adds to that. You know, I like my people in the dark and I can't see them. And this is literally, you can, you know, if I step the wrong way, I'm going to step on someone's foot. So they can see me 360. So, you know, I have to try to think, oh, are they looking at that bald spot, or are they listening to
And so Jay, Kevin, you wanted it to be in the round because it adds another dimension. It seems to lend itself to that. Like, what? Why?
Because of the level of intimacy that it provides, right? The more you separate yourself as an audience member from the words that are being said, the more disconnected you're going to become from the play. And certainly there are many ways to do this show, but my vision of it was just that if we brought people into their space in this in the round configuration, that the words, the engagement with them as an audience member would be enhanced by that. So it's also, I've been wanting to do something in the round, or in a just a different space configuration at an HTC for a while. And we've had a combination of things over the course of the last few months that have allowed us to be able to do that. as a result of some new platforming that we've gotten for the company, and that gives us more flexibility. I wanted to make the first show with that new platforming be something that was brand new for our audience as well.
So this is the first production of the 2024-25 season, and and I've seen I believe 2 productions there, and I just think y'all do amazing work. So the play runs November 7th and the 14th, 7:30, November 8th, 9th, 15th, and 16th, 8 p.m. And I'm gonna tell y'all something, and I've learned this the hard way. Tickets they sell out every time. And they're not going to add another date because I have begged them to add. So can't y'all just do one more show? And they're like, no, we have this amount of time and this is what we do. So and it's in the back of the English Market on Chapel Street. And
best theater lobby in the state of Connecticut.
Best theater lobby, and you could buy wine and treats and stuff like that, and you walk through a vintage store, so you could shop and look at the same time, and you will not be disappointed. It's a very intimate theater, very intimate black box theater, and now that all the construction is done on that other side of the street, thank God,
yay,
you can actually get around.
That's right.
And this is one of the most economic ticket prices anywhere for theater. Tell the people how much tickets are.
Tickets are $25 per seat, and that is, we believe, the most accessible theater price in New Haven, and for a theater company. And it's also, if you look beyond New Haven to other theaters around Connecticut, it's one of the most accessible theater prices in the state of Connecticut. We're committed to making the price point something that anybody can be able to take part in who is really interested in coming to see theater. And it's been the hallmark of our company since we started back in 2011 time.
And the theater holds how many people?
It's a very, very intimate theater space. It's only 42 people that can be in the audience. We may occasionally put on an additional chair if we have the demand, but it's so we're currently sold out for our second Thursday, the 14th, and we are more than half sold out for 4 of the other 5 performances. So like you said, people need to get their tickets now. And believe me, we're all going to be, over the course of the next 2 weeks, in the middle of a nonstop news cycle. We all know what's happening over the course of the next 2 weeks. You're going to want to break from that by that Thursday. So come out and break now.
So Ralph, do you like an intimate setting? Do you like an intimate theater setting as opposed to like hundreds of people?
I actually do like an intimate setting, and it works. It's kind of funny because you can see people's faces, and you can say, sort of, you don't want to stare down anybody because they're the audience. Why is he looking at me? Why is he looking at me? But just to get a sense of how it's going, and it's very interesting because people think they have a stage whisper and they don't, so you can hear a lot of what they're actually saying when you're performing, which keeps it interesting.
I love it. All right, so people can go to your website. I believe it's newhaventheatercompany.org.com.
.com. And the theater is ER, not RE. So for those people who are looking for it with the RE, it's flip it around and you'll find us at newhaventheatercompany.com.
So how many plays are you doing this year? Is this because
we have 3 shows lined up this year. This is our first one. The next one is going to be directed by a friend of yours, Dina Nicole Blifford.
I love Dina.
Dina's awesome, and she's a wonderful director. She is directing Lucas Nath's The Christians. For those who don't know Lucas Nath, he's a current modern playwright. He recently had a Broadway show called The Doll's House Part 2 which was an extension of the classic Ibsen piece, The Doll's House. And we did one of his productions a number of years ago called, oh gosh, I can't even tell the whole title. It was a staged reading of an unproduced screenplay about the death of Walt Disney. That's the name of the play, and it's basically a story about Walt Disney and his life and death. And so we like Nathan a lot. He's really good playwright, wonderful language that he uses. And The Christians is one of his more recent plays. It's really a great story of a preacher and his congregation who get into tension and conflict over a religious position that the preacher takes that is different than what his congregation wants them to take, and what happens to the church as a result of that. Lucas Nath grew up in a religious environment and wrote both sides of the argument with equal passion, and doesn't write a conclusion or a this is the one who's right narrative. He writes, about the true conflict of that. And it's a wonderful piece. We have a third show, and that's going to be coming up, by the way, in the February-March timeframe. And then our third show of the year is going to be in May. We have not yet announced that show, but hopefully we can be able to announce that here in the next week or so, so that everybody is aware of that. We'll have tickets on sale for both of those shows really soon. So.
Okay. Well, I so appreciate you both coming on this morning and talking about this play. I'm going to get on the wire and see if I can get me some tickets, or at least hold some tickets, so that I can come see this, because I'm intrigued by this. And I think you're right, Jay Kevin. This would be a nice break. Do you know what I mean? Like, to revisit letter writing and the art, as Ralph said, the art of letter writing across a time span. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for coming on this morning, and say hi to Sandra and tell her I love the diplomat. So
we'll do it. Thank you lots, Babz. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you soon. Thank you, Harry. I'll be back tomorrow, and y'all have a good day. The weather is beautiful out.
We'll keep